So, a lot of times for simple test taking and stuff like that, what people have done is they just give more time or extensions. But this system oftentimes runs into a lot of problems, and I want to talk about them. One is that, but one of the biggest problems is that it's just a big overview where everyone gets treated the same amount of extra time no matter what the test or assignment is. And different people need different amounts of extra times on different assignments. For example, some people have motor difficulties that can make writing more difficult for them. When they can't write as well, it is something that's more of an essay type will have a lot more effect than a multiple choice. An oral exam might hurt some people more than other people. Some people might be more fluid speakers, or some people might not even be able to talk at all. Then you have formatting, because writing, if it's just bullet points, some people might be able to do better. But then when they have to write in proper language, I shouldn't say proper language, when you have to write in a fancier language, where with sentences and spelling and grammar becomes more important, and they have to focus on those fine details, it might slow down some people more than others. Some people might have specific learning disabilities with math or other things, or some people might not be able to read certain text formats as long chunks of text, as well as other people that might be able to look at more small sentences better, because it's how the brain processes visual information and how it mixes it up. Some people may be able to have beyond all that thing I've been talking about with writing and specific skills. Some people might have take more time to ramp up their production or get into the mood. Some people might have problems with having to refocus. They can't focus for too long, so they have to take small breaks. So they have impact more on bigger tests, and so on and so on. So what are some ways, I think, around all these problems? One is to have a longer take-home test, which gives people more flexibility and time. It's not a big deal if you take longer to write if you have a lot of extra time. Or all these other things are not as big deal if you have a lot of extra time to get into the right mood, or to find the right place, or just to do it. Or you can find more resources to help you, and it's more realistic for the actual workplace oftentimes. You could try more specific accommodations, but that can be hard because then you have to figure out the specific accommodations from person to person, which means a lot more testing and stuff like that. Or you would have to discuss it with your professors much more. You can do a flexible grading system where different tests or different assignments count to different proportions of your grade depending on your abilities, or even within a test, or you can drop some stuff. And this is probably one of the most fair ones, and I have talked about it before. And nowadays it should be a lot more easy with computers and stuff, being able to figure out how to maximize your grade from different inputs if we were to actually make a good software. Another one is you could to fix this problem, you could try to dispute it. And that means that you say, hey, I do understand the material. Let me talk to you in person to prove that I understand it, even though it didn't come across my essay because of so-and-so reason, or I didn't understand what the essay wanted, and blah, blah, blah. Or just in other ways, have ways to prove your knowledge after the test. Kind of like a makeup, but it's not really makeup. Or to retake the test and see what you got wrong and somehow have it average. Like, let's say your essay wasn't long enough, so you can retake the test and you just have to show you have knowledge in a different area, which can boost it. Understand they have more of a broad range of knowledge. You could also figure out a flexible grading system where maybe that you have different types of questions on a test, so the test isn't only one type of question. Maybe you have some questions that are short answers, some are long answers, some are multiple choice, and a person could choose how much multiple choice or long answers or short answers they do, depending on the person, and it could be added up differently. So for the other one I want to say is that sometimes the extra time actually ends up being less time, because what they do is they start the test earlier to give you the extra time, but that means you have less time to study, which could really hurt you because a lot of people cram in last second, let's be honest. And you might say that's not how you should study, but everyone does it. So it's going to be unfair that you don't have that. Another one to make it unfair is, but that's not for every test, that's for just some of them. So it kind of oddly makes your test weird. Another one is that sometimes you have to start earlier, and when you start really affects you because of your clock. Like I've had to start tests earlier when I'm not wide awake, so I'm already sleepy and stuff and not in the right mood, or I'm having a headache and I still need to take my medication and do everything else because my morning routine is longer because of various disabilities. That also means that I'm coming into test feeling much sicker until I'm not on my prime in the day. When in the real world, I found that oftentimes I can take my time to get ready much more. But you could also have one that goes on later at night or without food, or delays you from having food, or a bunch of other things that makes you feel sicker or in some way more out of it. This, now you can say, wait, we should test for blah blah, but testing and getting approval for these things can take, oftentimes for just a basic IEP, which is how you modify these things, can often take over 2 or 3 years. So that's not really accessible. So something to look into. And beyond that, you might just have a focus problem. So taking something over 2 hours is not the same as taking it over 1 hour, because you start to lose focus after a while. And all these other things. So the way around that, I think, is pretty similar to the way I've been discussing around the first one about lowering times and stuff like that. But also designing tests that would keep you focused better. And ways you can do that is you could, for some people, can have the test, you can offer a variety of formats for the same test, from oral to non-oral, to having the sections split up in different ways. I have trouble transferring stuff from, I have trouble, and it actually slows me down a lot, from transferring from piece of paper to Scantron. So if you had, which means I write my answer on a different piece of paper. So you could have some formats of test where you have all the questions, people can use scrap paper. Other formats of test where you just have the spacing more, where you can just answer along this long test spacing. Or other formats of test where you have more bold letters or more this and that, just to help people focus and concentrate longer. You could also have it just a sort of version of test that maybe is harder but has less questions, just for different people. And then you could have figure out better scheduling, or have a couple different test dates available for different versions of test, or a couple different test times, so people can take it at different test dates at times to make it a little more fair. Do you do run into some of the problems with some people might have more time to study, vice versa. Then you might ask about curving, blah blah, but then curving, you're statistically changing the test, so that runs into some controversial territory right there. Another thing you could do, another problem that could happen with all this test taking is time management, is that when you have all these different types of tests, for sometimes time management is a bigger deal when you have 100 questions or 20 question test or something like that. And for a lot of people, that can significantly impact their test grade. So having maybe different versions of the test, or longer tests, or anything that I've previously discussed might help in this. Another one that I finally want to discuss is that they might have not understood what you actually wanted on the test. And so they, for a long time with short answers and long essays, people do not know what the person actually, how much details they want or what details they want. And that can be unfair, especially neurodivergent and autistic folks have trouble interpreting those open-ended systems. So a couple way of fixing that is to show previous tests and who got good grades, and practice assignments so you get more of a sense of what the person wants. But also having take home can help it, more specific flexible grades, but disputing it a lot, saying I didn't know this, I just did not know that I needed to write this down, or I have all this extra knowledge that you do not know, and talking to the teacher about it could really, really help. Well, I hope you found this interesting, and maybe this will help a little bit someone. Please like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out. I'm trying to reach 1,000 subscribers in a year and 4,000 watch hours, which is really hard, but with your help, I think I can do it. Also, if any of these for future videos, comments, or suggestions, please leave them in the comment section below. Thank you very much.